inmates were presented for pardon, 39 inmates for clemency, and 4 ex-convicts for presidential pardon.
National Council of State meets, approves state pardon for 45 Nigerians.
At the entrance, before you carry your luggage in, it must be disinfected.
International terminal of Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, gears up preparation ahead of flight's resumption Friday.
We have been assured by the contractor that this bridge will be ready for commissioning by the end of this year.
Federal government promises to deliver Local Oweto Bridge project before the year runs out. And Nigeria's Akinwumi Adesina gets second term of 5 years as African Development Bank president. It's nice to be here Thursday night. I am Joseph Johnson with the news on the network service of the NTA. We hope you are enjoying the weather and of course observing all the safety protocols. Tonight, Ingunu John Adams will be reading from Lagos and Chineye Nwoye from Enugu. Glad to have you join us. The Council of State has formally ratified the grant of presidential pardon to 45 Nigerians in line with the recommendations of the Presidential Advisory Committee on Prerogative of Mercy. The Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, announced this after the virtual meeting of the Council presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. State House correspondent Adamu Samba reports on this and other resolutions of the Council.
Holding for the first time in nearly 19 months, the well-attended meeting of the Council of State was convened by President Muhammadu Buhari to seek the advice of members in the exercise of his powers. Former President Goodluck Jonathan joined the President in the Executive Council chambers for the meeting alongside Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, Senate President Ahmed Lawan, and few members of the Council. Other former Nigerian leaders, present and former Chief Justices of Nigeria and the 36 state governors participated online from across Nigeria. And in line with the constitutional dictates and requirements, the Council approved a memo on the presidential pardon granted to 45 Nigerians.
2 inmates were presented for pardon, 39 inmates for clemency, and 4 ex-convicts for presidential pardon.
The beneficiaries include the late Professor Ambrose Ali, former governor of the defunct Bendel State. The Council, the minister said, also approved the appointment of 2 legal practitioners, Namoso Ekanem from Akwa Ibom State and Mahmoud Abubakar Mogaji from Niger State as members of the Federal Judicial Service Commission. Also approved for appointment were Silas Agara and 11 others as chairman and members of the National Population Commission, subject to confirmation by the National Assembly. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa, updated the Council members on the national response to the coronavirus pandemic.
We received a commendation that our response is well coordinated, is robust, and the level of engagement with the subnationals and other critical stakeholders. This is one response that has attracted even the review of the international community. We will not relent in our efforts as members of the Presidential Task Force, but we will continue in an accelerated manner.
The National Security Advisor, Babagana Munguno, who briefed the Council on the general security situation in the country and efforts at mitigating the challenges, announced the approval for the establishment of the National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons to be domiciled in his office.
This center will provide the strategic framework for containing the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, especially those coming from across our borders within the sub-region and also those coming in through the maritime environment. And I want to reassure you that a lot is being done in conjunction with other entities of government to deal with problems that I may not mention here.
Already, he said, President Buhari has approved continued recruitment into the armed forces and the police, increased state-of-the-art equipment procurement that will serve the force multipliers, and also ordered better synergy and collaboration within the security agencies. The council was also briefed on the state of the nation's economy as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and drop in oil prices.
And the current coordinated efforts of the federal government to contain the COVID-19 pandemic, and especially the 2.3 trillion naira economic stimulus plan, would reposition the economy on a sustainable path of rapid recovery.
Even though our resources are scarce, but I think we are facing the right direction, and for us in the National Assembly, we will continue to approve good policies of government, especially when it comes to areas that will touch the lives of the most ordinary man to help him survive this situation and even do better after the COVID situation.
The National Assembly, he said, is impressed with what has been achieved so far in keeping the economy afloat. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Akinwumi Adesina has won election for a second 5-year term as President African Development Bank. This is coming as Nigeria and other African leaders challenged the management of the bank on social and economic development strategy post-COVID-19. Details with Musa Babaliu.
This is the first time the African Development Bank is holding its annual general meeting virtually in compliance with COVID-19 protocols. The general meeting coincides with the time the bank is due to elect another president. Akinwumi Adesina of Nigeria presented himself for the election in which he was the sole candidate. He was endorsed by the governing board and returned elected. Adesina, the first Nigerian to hold the post of the bank's president, expressed his readiness for the vital work ahead.
With the pandemic, Africa has lost over a decade of economic growth. Africa's recovery will be long and difficult. Now we must help Africa to build back boldly, but smartly, paying greater attention to quality growth, health, climate, and the environment.
Before the re-election of Akinwumi Adesina, he was confronted with an allegation of what was described as whistleblower on issues relating to the bank's policy and integrity. The governing board of the bank exonerated the AFDB president from all the allegations leveled against him and declared him free to contest his second term in office. Other stakeholders of the bank, including past African leaders, are emphasizing that based on the principles governing the bank, no nation has the power to remove the president or any director of the bank.
I believe that a successful virtual annual meeting and the election of the president will send a strong signal to the world and regional member countries that the African Development Bank remains a strong and stable bank that will continue to partner with the continent in its developmental efforts, particularly at this time of global uncertainty and severe challenges.
President Alassane Ouattara of Cote d'Ivoire challenged the governing board of the AFDB to come up with ambitious policy towards improving the socio-economic well-being of the people, which were disrupted by coronavirus pandemic. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
And on behalf of the federal government and entire people of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari congratulates President of African Development Bank, AFDB, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, on his re-election for a second term in office. The news of the victory came during the National Council of State meeting, which was attended by former heads of state, Senate President, former Chief Justices of Nigeria, governors, ministers, and senior government officials. Elizabeth Omori has details of the congratulatory messages.
Released by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, announced the good news. Nigeria and Africa, the President noted, are honored by the victory, which is a testimony of his hard work and commitment to the development of the continent. The President extends appreciation to the African Union for its endorsement of the AFDB's president much earlier, and to shareholders of the bank and the international community as a whole who worked tirelessly to ensure the return of the visionary leader. President Buhari believes Dr. Adesina's versatility and experience at both national and international engagements will energize the Pan-African financial institution, urging him to remain focused and steadfast in pursuing the noble goals of making life better for Africans through various development plans already captured as high fives. President Buhari rejoices with family, friends, and professional colleagues of Dr. Adesina over the re-election, while commending members of staff and board of governors of the AFDB for their consistent support for the former Nigerian Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development and his management team, while pledging full support of his government to ensure a successful tenure for the AFDB leadership. President Buhari prays that the Almighty God will continue to strengthen Dr. Adesina and his team for greater good to the continent. In Abuja, Elizabeth Omori, NTA News.
And now let's talk a little more on the development as I'm now being joined in the studio by Dr. Mohammed Sani Bello, former Financial Controller, ECOWAS Commission, now Senior Lecturer, Kaduna State University. Dr. Bello, you're welcome to NTA Network News.
Thank you.
Right, it's an exciting news as it is, isn't it? Well, how did you receive the re-election of Dr. Akinwumi Adesina after the many hurdles he scaled?
Well, actually, it was quite pleasing to get Dr. Adewumi re-elected as leader of the African Development Bank Group. Honestly, I'm happy for him. It's a victory for him, particularly because he went through a lot of hurdles, as you have said. He have had to contend with a kind of probe on some certain allegations, which were later found to be frivolous. And he has made it. So it's a victory for him, it's a victory for Nigeria, and victory for President Muhammadu Buhari, because I can recall how he stood by him. The government have had to say several times that on Adesina they stood. So that was quite good. And we will not also forget the contribution of former President Obasanjo, along with his former president within the ECOWAS sub-region, that took time to write, to the governing board of the bank on their understanding of issues, and they really insisted that Akinwumi should continue, because he has been doing quite a good job.
Okay, all right. So his re-election appears to be a collective trust or confidence, if you like, reposed in him by stakeholders, particularly Nigeria. What's your take on this? And would you say the turbulence is over?
Well, the turbulence may not be over because now, you see, they say the result of good work is more work. So now the expectation is higher, and what I expect of him is to rededicate himself to continue to do the good things that people saw, and that what made people to stand by him. He needs to continue on that track.
Talking about good thing, what would you say is in it for Nigeria? Let's also look at the focus that he should focus on, as he's coming in.
Well, Adewumi has, cut out a good thing when he was here as Minister of Agriculture. And when he went to ADB, he has, done quite a lot regarding agriculture, issue of repositioning the bank itself so that it can serve the good people of Africa, unlike what it used to be before. And so that is why, as we would have seen, he stood unopposed. He was returned unopposed, and which means all the stakeholders now have confidence in him. And as he has mentioned several times, his own focus is Africa, and the bank is for Africa, and he's going to really work hard to ensure that the development of Africa in all aspects of human life is the main focus of his second tenure. in office.
Yeah, thank you very much. There's a little bit undertone of confidence. It appears you also have an immense confidence.
Yeah, quite all right.
All right. On that note, thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us on the matter.
Thank you, Joseph.
All right, I've been speaking with Dr. Bello, Mohamed Sani Bello. Is a former financial controller, ECOWAS Commission, now a senior lecturer, Kaduna State University. Now, let's bring you a different kind of good news because President Muhammadu Buhari rejoices with Nigerian-born Kesi Madu, appointed Minister of Justice and Solicitor General of the government of Alberta in Canada. In a statement by the special advisor to the President on media and publicity, President Buhari describes the honor as landmark and historic, and a pointer to the fact that people of Nigerian descent are go-getters who distinguish themselves in different walks of life. Madu makes history as the first African-born provincial minister in Canadian history, and is also the provincial secretary and keeper of the Great Seal of the province of Alberta. The president says, as the first black Justice Minister and Solicitor General in Canada, Madu has written himself into history books and urges Nigerians both at home and abroad to remain good ambassadors of the country. Now, to stay with us here on NTA Network News, we're back shortly.
I talk to you plenty now because I get glue too. I make me the talk. Please, I be not be so. All right. Don't be say I won't talk plenty. Una no say I not dey lie. You see this glow? If you get them, una no go even una go just they talk they go because it's not there.
Enjoy international calls from as low as 40 kobo per second from Nigeria to the world. Call your loved ones today.
Thank you, my sister. You do well, eh?
Glow Unlimited. At Elizade Autoland, we don't just sell quality, we build quality. JAC Motors, assembled in Nigeria by Elizade Autoland. High demand for fleets of JAC Motor brands by members of the public and private sectors. JAC Motors are clearly built with one purpose in mind. They are built to serve. Elizade Autoland, sole distributor of JAC Motors in Nigeria.
We dey catch feelings, we dey cry.
Amaka,
life is easy, try. If you do better thing, you go drive, mama.
Leave that house now.
Amaka. Stay where you are. You are going nowhere. Amaka!
Blockbuster movies like this, series and much more. Download the Airtel TV app.
Mr. Announcer, you don't tell them say this film is still there on top of fire. And you say me, we still the shoot, so.
Download the Airtel TV app from Apple and Android Play Store. Enjoy up to 1.5 gigabyte free data monthly. Airtel TV by Airtel, the smartphone network.
We keep it moving. We going straight to the top. Like it or not, we tell them haters. This is war. Slowing down or making a stop. We waiting to drop. Do us a favor.
You understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
We going straight to the top. Like it or not, we tell them haters.
Have to say this. I'm the boss.
Never slowing down or making a stop. We waiting to drop. Do us a favor. We keep it moving.
You're still watching NTA Network News with me, Joseph Johnson. Lai Mohammed and his counterparts from Works and Housing and Special Duties. Contractor handling the project will deliver by the end of this year, assuring Nigerians that the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration will bequeath to the citizens a legacy of infrastructures that will last a long time. Anthony Forson reports.
Ministers, Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, Minister for Special Duties, George Akume, they inspected the 2.1-kilometer stretch of bridge, which stands at 97% completed. They told journalists who accompanied them on the inspection visit that the project will be ready for commissioning by the end of this year.
We have been assured by the contractor that this bridge will be ready for commissioning by the end of this year. The Honorable Minister of Works is also working on how to get the other side of the road completed.
At the moment, 37 bridge works, either construction, repairs, rehabilitation going on across Nigeria through our ministry. There's a lot going on across that even people do not see.
Security is important. Ensure that those who are working on this facility are protected. Don't allow anybody to pilfer my equipment. These are very costly equipment. Don't allow anybody to do that. If you notice the presence of antisocial elements in your communities, don't hesitate to report them to the police, the military, and other security forces.
The west end of the bridge, called Loko, has a 76-kilometer stretch into Nasarawa State, while the other end to the west is Oweto, a 106-kilometer stretch into Benue State. It will cut off 6 hours travel journey time from the north to the south. From the local Oweto Bridge, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
Let's turn our attention to the aviation industry because 2 weeks to the resumption of international flight in Lagos and Abuja airports, additional advisory of an upward review of passenger service charge to commence from September the 1st has been released for airlines and passengers. Aviation correspondent Emmanuel Ayimero, who was at the international wing of the Abuja airport for update on the level of preparedness, reports that the international terminal is ready to reopen on the 5th of September.
Due to the loss of billions of dollars to COVID-19 in global air transport industry in 2020, the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAN, which has a shortfall of over 16 billion naira in the last 6 months, has come up with a new service charge to rescue the agency from going under. Domestic passenger service charge is to move from 1,000 to 2,000 naira. ECOWAS region to have an additional $30, while intercontinental is to get $50 in addition.
The new PSC increase will be additionally used to further improve our facilities. Most of our airports will have dilapidated facilities. These are airports well over 30, some 40 years.
Meanwhile, the international terminal of the Abuja airport has put every measure in place to check COVID-19 cases, starting from the entrance to the departure gate. A screening camera to peak temperature has been installed.
At the entrance, before you carry a luggage in, it must be disinfected or fumigated. When you come in, after every operation, every flight, facilitation, the whole place will be clean and the same process will be undergone to ensure that the place is safe for the next flight.
Although this international terminal has been conducting skeletal operations for evacuation and repatriation due to the suspension of international flight as a result of COVID-19, it is however expected that when international flight begins, this terminal would bubble again. Emmanuel Ayemiro, NTA News.
Of course, that's from Abuja International Airport. Let's get more preparations for resumption of international flight as we join Hingino in Lagos Network Center. Hingino, I'm sure you have an update.
Joseph.
COVID-19 protocols necessary to guarantee seamless restart of flight operations at the international wing of the Murtala Mohammed Airport have been activated. Imole Aitokede reports that to prove its readiness, a simulation exercise was held at the airport.
Passengers from one of the repatriation flights that have kept the airport busy since commercial operations were suspended on the international wing. And in line with the new protocol for restart, they were brought into the arrival lounge in batches under strict compliance with social distancing. This is in addition to the presentation of COVID-19 certificates authenticating their status. The flight also served the simulation purpose, outlining stages of screening while boarding and arriving at the international airport to ensure the health measures, including the safety markings, social distancing, and the likes, are adequately complied with.
The effort being put in place by the federal government has been very impressive. So all the protective measures and the actions are very adequate.
Since we are starting with less flights, we're going to combine bridges. So we are using 5-1 like we did here. We combine 5-1 and 5-2, so people will have enough space to sit down. The secondary screening will be done without people crowding.
This development is arising after international flights were suspended in late March this year due to COVID-19 pandemic. In Lagos, Imole Aitokede, NTA News.
Away from aviation now, the Nigerian Navy has called on members of the public to always provide credible information that would help confront societal crime. Dr. Oguyemi reports that among strategies put in place to check criminal activities is Operation Awkward, flagged off under the Western Naval Command.
The blaring of sirens signals the flag-off of Operation Awkward. Naval personnel on high security alert, ambulance and medical staff, as well as fire trucks are on standby, while boats displayed tactical maneuvers, a demonstration of the operational readiness of fleet under the command to carry out emergency tasks.
It is aimed at having a coordinated response, mainly against subsurface threat, which includes frogmen, divers, and subsurface vehicles.
Leading the pack of ships designated to participate in the exercise is NNS Aradu. This 125.6 meter long frigate is the largest and the flagship of the Nigerian Navy. Its long road to being refitted comes as good news in boosting the capacity of the Navy to tackle crime and criminality within the Gulf of Guinea, as well as intensify maritime security in the Nigerian maritime domain. The exercise aims at complementing the successes of Operation Calm Waters 2, which has recorded arrest of vessels and several suspects. In Lagos, Dotun Okunyemi, NTA News.
It's now back to Joseph in Abuja. Joseph?
Ingino, thank you very much. Federal Road Safety Corps (FRSC) is collaborating with the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) to ensure that incessant tankers and trailers crashes on the Nigerian roads are drastically reduced. Corps Marshal Boboyo Oyeyemi made this known during the Corps' visit to the top management of the NNPC in Abuja. Oyeyemi Ajayi has more.
Is for a long time have been common occurrence that continually gives concerns to the people due to the number of fatalities and injuries recorded in each accident. This has brought fear into the minds of many road users who call for better measures to curb truck-related crashes on the highways. However, in the course of ensuring road safety and sanity with much targets on heavy-duty vehicles, the Federal Road Safety Corps and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation have identified the need to implement the enforcement of mandatory installation of speed limiting devices and other safety requirements on haulage vehicles.
We will collaborate with you and see the relevant agencies of government that we need to engage, particularly Ministry of Works,
to see what would be the best framework for putting the stationary web bridges, and of course there's also a possibility of putting mobile web bridges.
Once the safety valves are fully installed, even if the tanker falls, it doesn't spill. When it doesn't spill, the other road users are safe. You only need a crane to lift it and get it off the road.
They also agree that tankers that do not meet the mandatory safety requirements must be prevented from loading at the tank farms, as well as periodic checks of haulage vehicles at loading points by task force committees. In Abuja, Oyeyemi Ajayi, NTA News.
Now, the coronavirus pandemic has impacted the world economy harder than any incident since the World War II, and this will continue to have lasting effect on the energy demand globally to reposition the sector in line with the new normal. Experts say unionism must shift from activism to collaboration. Lydia Sampson reports that reaching a consensus on the modalities of this synergy was the focus of gathering of oil and gas industry players in Abuja.
And other oil-producing nations are still battling to weather the storm of the impact of COVID-19. As enablers of national growth and development, Minister of State Petroleum Resources Temipre Silva said the federal government considers oil and gas workers as critical stakeholders. He said ongoing transformation in the sector cannot succeed without the support of oil and gas workers.
Nigerian oil and gas industry remains the main driver for economic and infrastructural development of the country. It is the major contributor of foreign exchange earnings to the Nigerian government, accounting for around 10% of the nation's GDP.
When it costs you $35 to produce average, and you are selling at 45, it means you only have $10 to pay taxes, pay royalties, and have a margin. So this business won't survive under this kind of situation. So what did we do? You have to reduce your cost and increase your revenue.
It is often said that when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. It is in the light of this that despite the seemingly tough time facing the industry, some individuals and organizations got a pat on the back for distinguishing themselves. The Executive Secretary Petroleum Equalization Fund, Ahmed Boboy, is the recipients.
Confrontation, we have come to realize, does not work well for the industry. Confrontation is not the way to go. Collaboration is the way to go.
Other recipients include the GMD NNPC, Meli Kulu Kyari, and the DPR Director, Sauki Awal, among others. The various speakers are unanimous that crude oil will continue to be crucial in the global energy mix. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
The chairman, Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, says the commission is greatly concerned about some of the statements, actions and excesses of some of the actors and their supporters in the build-up to the governorship election on the 19th of next month in Edo State. He is currently in Benin, where he is meeting with key players. Ogochukwuka Ona reports.
On the agenda is his meeting with the Interagency Consultative Committee on Security, which held behind closed doors.
The security agencies have assured us that they are going to be professional and neutral in the management of the forthcoming elections.
He has also led his team to the Palace of the Oba of Benin, His Royal Majesty Ewa II, to seek blessing for a peaceful exercise and a recognition of the importance of the traditional institution in peace building. He told the monarch that 10 activities on schedule for the election have been successfully carried out, and the 4 outstanding ones are publication of the notice of poll, submission of names of polling agents, end of campaigns and date of election, and that any act that can truncate the process will not augur well for the state. The Oba of Benin believes that although the level of anxiety is high, there is no reason under any guise to heat up the polity.
The current system of 4 years tenure is going to keep on remaining. I think the advice I want to give to the political parties is that perhaps they consider having what the British call unwritten constitution.
The INEC chairman is expected to meet with electoral officers and undertake a tour of some local government INEC offices. In Benin, Ogochkuka Ona, NTA News.
In our earlier report on the constitution of the Board of National Population Commission, Silas Agara was erroneously named as the chairman. The chairman of the newly constituted board is Nasiru Isa Kwara. The error is regretted. The National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party, on behalf of the National Executive Committee, has reconstituted the State Caretaker Committee to pilot the affairs of the Plateau State chapter of the party, chaired by Senator Suleiman Adokwe. A statement from the party's National Publicity Secretary says the NWC also approved the expansion of the Niger State Caretaker Committee of the party to include Peter Nda Alkali Jia, Mohammed Rico and Garba Bar. The Plateau State Caretaker Committee is charged with the sole responsibility of running the affairs of the party in Plateau State until a new executive committee is elected for a period not exceeding 90 days. The Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board has organized a capacity building workshop for judges on the executive implementation and enforcement of the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act, with the theme building synergy between the board and the bench. Judiciary correspondent Vera Chumuba reports that the workshop was conducted with guest speakers who delivered papers on various topics and input from participants.
Justices of the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal and Federal High Court are participating in the virtual workshop. The enactment of the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Development Act is aimed at deepening indigenous participation in the industry. The Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, with its strong support for local content development through its multi-sectoral approach, has been engaging stakeholders towards understanding the workings and operations of the Act.
We believe that a good understanding of the law is fundamental to its effective interpretation before the court or enforcement, especially in case of violation.
It is expected that the workshop will bridge knowledge gaps, create the much needed awareness.
Executive Secretary of the board, who gave an overview and scope of operation with projection for the next 10 years, said effective implementation of the Act holds so much for the country.
I tell you, if not for the Act, if we rewind back 10 years ago, if not for the conscientious way we have implemented this Act, we would have closed all our production platforms because experts have left. But today, we didn't seal them at all. Production still continue at its peak. We were only restricted by the OPEC quota.
The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Ibrahim Tanko Mohammed, was represented by Justice Olukayode Ariwola.
I thank the management of the NCA for this novel and proactive initiative aimed at enhancing the capacity of the judiciary to dispense justice in oil and gas related cases, particularly as it relates to content development in the sector.
This is the third workshop the board is organizing for judiciary stakeholders with promises for continuous engagement. In Abuja, Vera Chumuba, NTA News.
Well, let's bring you some updates now on coronavirus. You already know resumption of international flight has been shifted by 1 week to enable the Ministry of Aviation fine-tune logistics. Meanwhile, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has launched 2 online dashboards to track the national response and donations towards fighting the pandemic. Mitari Ikban reports on Thursday's PTF briefing in Abuja.
Designated airports are ready to operate, but the 1 week extension of the resumption of international flights is attributed to other non-aviation logistics which must be put in place.
It has to do with the online platform.
where before departing you are supposed to go fill information, health information, contact information, and pay for your second COVID test in Nigeria 7 days after you arrive. There are some issues because you're going to have an initial platform, and depending on where you're going, it's going to direct you to another particular platform to deal with that. So we're still working on that.
2 online dashboards, the COVID-19 Incidents and Response Tracker, as well as the COVID-19 Resource Mobilization, will serve as transparency and accountability portals for the PTF.
We will continue to collaborate with the private sector in creating models that ensure all our activities are easily accessible by the public in line with the Freedom of Information Act.
Any one of you can go onto these dashboards to see how we are mitigating this pandemic, as well as the resources required and the resources that have been utilized.
The task force appeals to business owners to strictly enforce its no mask, no entry policy.
If every shop, every restaurant, if every mosque, every church insists on this, it's only then that we'll be able to arrest and slow down the rate of infection.
6 months after Nigeria's COVID-19 index case was announced, the Presidential Task Force is determined to bridge gaps in testing and risk communication towards containing the pandemic. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikwen, NTA News.
Gombe State has received 60 truck load of grains from the federal government as palliative for distribution to people of the state to cushion the economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic. Emmanuel Akila reports that the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, handed over the materials to Governor Muhammadu Inuwa Yahaya in Gombe.
Materials include 690 metric tons of maize, 60 metric tons of millet, 720 metric tons of sorghum. Presenting the grains to Governor Muhammadu Inuwa Yahaya, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, lamented the humanitarian hardship of the people in the Northeast region, compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic, which is why President Muhammadu Buhari sends her with the relief materials to support the people, especially the vulnerable members of the society and those affected by disaster.
Government is very determined and government is very focused to see that we bring about early recovery in the Northeast. That is to say, people are returned back to their communities, people are rehabilitated.
The minister had visited the governor at Government House, where she reminded the government and people of Gombe State on the need to take precautions as the flood prediction for the year 2020 has already begun affecting the flash areas, Gombe State inclusive.
We appreciate you, and most especially for this gesture that you come with. Because COVID, Gombe is taking proactive measures.
The minister has proceeded to other states on the same mission. In Gombe, Emmanuel Akila, NTA News.
Chineye in our Enugu Network Center picks up from here with more reports. Chineye.
Thank you, Joseph. Good evening and welcome to Enugu. The Chairman, House of Representatives Committee on Health Institutions, Dr. Martin Soke, says the coronavirus pandemic has taught Nigerians a great lesson. The reason the federal government is leaving nothing to chance in ensuring that the health systems in the country are strengthened. He was speaking when he led the committee members on an inspection tour of facilities at the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital, Itukwuozala. As part of its oversight functions, the House of Reps Committee on Institutions is visiting health facilities and states in the Southeast Zone to get a first-hand information that would help to prepare for the presentation of budget next month. Taking a tour of some of the ongoing projects at the UNTH Itukwuozala, including the administrative, radiotherapy, and CTU buildings, among others, chairman of the committee expressed satisfaction with the projects and assured the members will help ensure the completion of the projects to improve the health of Nigerians and discourage medical tourism, especially in this COVID-19 pandemic.
This is not a time for people to run outside the country for treatment. You will not even have the opportunity because you don't even have international flight. It's not clear to Nigerians and to the government that you need to strengthen the health institution.
Chief Medical Director of the hospital had earlier made a presentation to the committee members where he highlighted progresses made so far and named poor funding, especially overhead allocation, as a major challenge confronting the hospital.
We're going to improve on our public-private partnership engagements. I think PPP is one way that we want to use to assist government because government cannot fund everything.
The committee members also interacted with the management staff of the hospital. The University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital, Itukwozala, is a cardiothoracic center of excellence. It is also a center for COVID-19 testing. Challenges of drug abuse among young people, rising cases of violence, as well as protection of child rights, were topical issues raised at a zonal sensitization seminar on ending violence against children and promoting civil child education in Nigeria. Comfort Ayim was at the event organized in Enugu by the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, and now reports.
Nigerian children are still being confronted with various forms of abuses on a daily basis, especially in this COVID-19 period. The zonal sensitization campaign, among others, seeks to enhance knowledge and review commitment to protect the child, eradicate harmful practices, including female genital mutilation. The Federal Ministry of Women Affairs representative said the seminar is a continuous awareness towards ending violence against children and other vulnerable groups, especially and after COVID-19.
People should make sure that the rights of children are protected, and especially the rights of women, girls. And then with the current trend of rape in the country, we urge the society, the community, and the family to be vigilant and speak out.
Burning issues in their paper presentations, among others, were child's training, justice administration of a child, substance abuse as it affects society, warning signs of drug abuse, and how much the parents know their children. Professor of Law Frank Asogwa, Commissioner of Gender Affairs in Enugu State, and DLEA official were among the speakers at the event. In Enugu, Comfort Ayim, NTA News.
And that's our bit from here. Joseph is back to you in Abuja.
Chineye from our Enugu Network Center there. Let's take another break. Stay with us.
Welcome to Glow's new data plans with night browsing bonus. Dial *777#. Glow Unlimited.
Also available in a 4-tablet strip, 50 naira only. Panadol Extra, now also available in a 4-tablet strip at 50 naira only. Panadol Extra, now also available in a 4-tablet strip at 50 naira only.
You can follow us on all our social media platforms: Facebook at NTA Network News, Instagram at NTA Network, Twitter at NTA News Now, YouTube at NTA News Online. Or visit www.nta.ng. For live streaming, visit www.nta.ng/live. Now, you can stay updated on the go, be it on your TV, iPhone, laptop, or iPad, or download the NTA mobile application from your Play Store or App Store. NTA, you can beat the rich.
To effectively deal with the southern Kaduna crisis, the Buhari administration will not sweep the major issues underlying the conflict under the carpet. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo gave this assurance at the ongoing Nigeria Bar Association Annual General Conference during a special conversation featuring him and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila. The assurance includes ensuring justice, fixing economic marginalization, and the prosecution of persons responsible for murders to ensure that the impunity doesn't worsen. The Vice President condoled those who have lost loved ones and those injured or who have suffered loss of property. The Vice President expressed optimism that the issues would be resolved, noting that some of the peacemaking efforts have been fairly successful, as recent peace efforts between the Zangon Katav and the Fulani communities would yield positive results. The Multinational Joint Task Force MNJTF has facilitated the liberation of a Nigerian nurse abducted by the Islamic State's West Africa province ISWAP terrorists in January 2020. The Chief of Military Public Information, Colonel Mohammed Dole, said the victim, incarcerated in one of the ISWAP's strongholds in the Lake Chad, was rescued in the aftermath of a joint air interdiction conducted by the MNJTF and national partners that destroyed the camp. The nurse was able to escape to a village in Niger Republic, transferred to security agents in Sector 4 of the MNJTF, and later handed over to the Nigerian authorities for necessary medical examination. Similarly, 410 members of Darul Salam terrorist group, including women and children, have surrendered to troops of Operation Whale Stroke and other security agencies in Toto local government area of Nasarawa State. A statement by the Coordinator Defense Media Operations, Major General John Enenche, indicates that a bomb-making factory was also discovered during the clearance operation in the area. 6 rocket launchers, 13 improvised rocket bombs, 10 locally made hand grenades were recovered during the operation. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the appointment of Colonel Milan Dikio, retired as Interim Administrator Amnesty Program, with effect from August 21, 2020. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President, Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, says the appointment follows the President's approval of the disengagement of Professor Charles Dokubo from office as the Coordinator Amnesty Program with immediate effect. Professor Dokubo has been directed to hand over all official matters to the most senior officer of the program. President Buhari appreciates the services of Professor Dokubo to the Federal Republic of Nigeria and wishes him the best in his future endeavors. Well, let's bring you sports now. Never in the history of football has transfer of a player generated a lot of suspense and anxiety as Lionel Messi's transfer. Tamara Bire in this report looks at the transfer saga of arguably the best footballer in the world.